everyone, welcome back to our channel. So today I'm kind of going to be talking a little bit about my HSG and also my Femvue procedures. I know a lot of people have kind of reached out to me either asking when I'm going to do my next video, or they were looking for updates, or they found me on YouTube and were following me then on my Instagram. Whatever it was, it has really encouraged me to get back on here and do this. I haven't had a whole lot of time. Like I said in my last video, I am a makeup artist and unfortunately it is wedding season. So wedding season has been crazy. I haven't had any time to basically hang out with my own family or even like take a breath. So I'm trying to be better about doing it. So I promise I'll be on here a little bit more. So today I kind of want to touch on a little bit, going off my first video, kind of touch on what has happened since and also my other HSG and Femvue procedures, and kind of just explain my personal experience with them. So if you are interested, then I guess keep on watching. So to start off, I kind of want to talk a little bit about the Femvue procedure that I had earlier this year, because that kind of really starts off just the downfall of what has happened since. So the Femvue I had in, I believe, March or April, I can't remember exactly what month. The Femvue, what it does is we're gonna get a little deep here, so I apologize if it's a little TMI, but basically what you do is you go in, and my husband was with me, and it was wonderful to have him there because this was really scary to have this all happen. They stick a little spectacle thing into your friend downstairs, and then when they do that, they also stick a tiny little catheter into your uterus. Not into your bladder like most people have thought, no, into your uterus. Basically a catheter is just a tube for one thing to go to another. So it's just a fancy word. So they stick a little catheter in there, and then they take a little device that has air and saline in it. And at the same time, simultaneously, they push it in, and it blows air and saline into your tubes just to see if they're open. It's not necessarily just to see if they're open, but it's kind of like what my doctor said. She said it's like cleaning the cobwebs for some people that may just have some buildup mucus or whatever it could be. So while they're doing that, though, they do have an intrauterine ultrasound. So that basically means you have an inside ultrasound into your body while they're making you really uncomfortable. So to start off my story, my husband and I showed up, we got there, we filled out all the paperwork. My husband, ironically, was able to go run down, do his deposit of semen analysis, and then come back, and then we went in to the ultrasound room. They then began the procedure. They stuck the catheter into my uterus, but they didn't have the device ready, and they couldn't get the saline to suck up into the device, which then put me in a very uncomfortable position because having the catheter put into your uterus is really, really painful. So I'm sitting there for like 5 minutes, really uncomfortable, and no one can figure out this stupid device. They've had like 3 or 4 people come in and try and check it to see, you know, if it was like how to work it and like if it's working and whatever. Eventually someone comes in and was like, ooh, I know how to do this, and so they got it to work. At that point then I'm very uncomfortable still because I've been sitting there for 5 minutes with something inside, and this procedure, mind you, is supposed to take 10 minutes. So that's already 5 minutes of being uncomfortable, and then they finally get the device to work. They're putting the device into the catheter, and while they have the ultrasound, and they're like, I told them, I said, hey, I'm kind of feeling a little water on my backside. And they were like, oh no, that's fine, it's normal. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. And then come 15 minutes later, they're like, man, we can't get the saline and air to go through the tubes. This is so weird. Oh, we used the wrong catheter. So the catheter that they used originally was a straight catheter. The catheter they're supposed to use is a catheter that is straight, but it has a little knot, like a little balloon, just to kind of plug the cervix so that I wasn't feeling air and water on my butt as they're pushing it in. It should not have been coming out. So they then had to remove the catheter, which was not bad, that felt great. but then they had to put the other one in and then blow up the little tiny balloon to plug it up. When they did that, they then were like, okay, cool, let's do this. So they pushed the air and saline in there, and they were like, we don't see it going into your tubes, we just see it filling up your uterus. And mind you, I'm crying by this point because I'm really uncomfortable. I don't know what's happening. I am confused. They're not really actually talking to me. They're just talking amongst themselves. There's like 4 or 5 people in this tiny little room. I'm just full of anxiety, and they lean over and they say, oh, are you in pain? And I was like, no, I'm anxious. And they go, oh, okay. And then they continued doing what they were doing. They totally had no bedside manner, and it really upset me. My husband, being the sweet man he is, was sitting there watching this and was baffled because they really lost their bedside manner, and it really bothered me. And they ended up ending the procedure and the doctor then turned to the ultrasound tech and told her, hey, I want to see her in my office when she gets dressed. Not to me sitting there, to the other person. So then that again made me feel very uncomfortable. So by that point, I, got dressed, went into her office, and she basically told me, I'm sorry, the procedure failed. This is not like how we wanted it to go. You're going to need to go get the dye version of the HSG. Basically, it's a similar procedure, but they use dye instead, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I was really upset. I mean, they really didn't do what they should have, and I don't like to look on the negative, but I am very frustrated with this, and I hope that nobody ever has this experience because it was just not okay. And I feel like throughout this entire journey, people have really looked down upon us because we're young. Just because we're 23 doesn't mean that we're no less serious about having a child as the next person. So that really bothered me, and so we ended up, driving home, and it was rough. My husband was like, I'm not sure if I'm ready for you to go through another procedure because I'm pretty mortified, and just seeing you laying there uncomfortable. So we then decided to just take a minute and not do anything. So they wanted us to do the HSG, which is the next procedure, and also an endometriosis discovery surgery. So they stick a little camera in your belly button to see if you have endometriosis. But from the suggestion of my fertility acupuncturist, because I go to her weekly and she is my saint with all of this, she suggested that we don't do that right now because it's very invasive and truly can be very hard on the heart. So we decided, okay, let's not do that. So we were like, let's set up the HSG. Well, unfortunately, my body did not want to cooperate with us for the HSG. I ended up having like a 15-day period at one point. They screwed up the scheduling on another month, and so we were just very frustrated. By the time we got to the HSG, man, I was nervous. I was so scared that it was going to be like the last time, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking, you know what? The people that do these ones, they outsource it. They're being done by radiologists. They're being done by people that do this all day. I trust them. So now off to part 2. We ended up going and getting the HSG. So the HSG is very similar to the first procedure. However, what they do instead is they stick the little catheter in there that has the little balloon. They did it right. Let me just tell you that really quick. And so they stick the catheter in there, and then they put dye into your uterus and into your tubes. And then they actually have a moving x-ray. So it's, instead of an intrauterine ultrasound, it's a external x-ray, which is really nice because then it's one less thing they have to worry about being put inside of you, for lack of better terms. And then it'll project it onto the screen, and they can see exactly where the dye is, if the dye has spillage, if there's blockages, or scar tissue or anything. They can see it all right then and there. So basically, I showed up to that. I went in and they had me stripped down. It was definitely a different feel. It was very sanitary. You walk in, it's a white room, with a white table with white equipment. Everything was very white, and so I actually felt more confident, and I made a point to talk to the people that were there and explain to them, hey, do you mind telling me what you're doing when you're doing it, because of my past experience. This was what it was, and I don't want that again today. And they reassured me that that's not how it was going to be, so I was looking forward to not feeling the same way. I was very nervous because I thought, like, this is really going to be painful. Luckily, I did take ibuprofen probably about maybe an hour before, I think is what they told me to do, 30 minutes maybe. I took 500 milligram ibuprofen, whatever like the normal is for my body. Can't remember. They stuck the catheter in, which I didn't feel, which was beyond me. And then they started the dye, and she kept asking me, she's like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, you talking to me? And she's like, yeah, you. And I was like, oh, I literally feel nothing. She was like, really? Okay. And so that made me nervous, but it also made me happy at the same time because I wasn't going through the pain that I was going through the first time. So luckily I didn't have any pain, and they were very sweet, and the results came back that I was actually good to go, and I didn't have any blockages. I did have a little tiny bit of scar tissue from past uterine trauma, but other than that, I was good. So that was really good to know. And then we were kind of ready to just hop back into what we were doing. So to go off of that, what we ended up doing after was we did start our second round of Clomid. They did bump it up to 100 milligrams of Clomid. Originally I did 50, we did 100. I did go into my appointment for Follicle Scan, and I only had one follicle, and it was actually a borderline cyst, which sucks. And also my uterine lining was really thin, which can be a side effect of Clomid. So basically what that told us is my body doesn't react to Clomid very well. You basically do 3 rounds of Clomid, and then they do another plan for you. So for some people, they end up going to a fertility specialist, or they, start to incorporate other things. Luckily where we're at an advanced fertility office. I don't think that they're ready to send us to a fertility specialist because they are an advanced fertility office. So we don't know yet because we haven't had our appointment yet. So basically this month, I'm actually on today's day 6 of progesterone, which is exciting. Actually, it's not progesterone, it's Provera, because progesterone makes me blind. So this journey has been so interesting. So I'm on Provera. Provera will then induce my period, which then I will go back in right as I get my period, and they'll do an ultrasound to see if all my cysts are gone. If my cysts are gone, then we will then start on Femora. I don't know how to say it. But basically it's an alternative to Clomid, and actually a lot of people with PCOS react a lot better with it. So I'm hoping that maybe that will do the trick and we won't have to do anything else. But then also at day 12 of my cycle, so day 1 is the first day of my period, day 12, about 2 days before average ovulation, you go in and I get my follicle scan to see what my body has been doing, how it's been reacting to the medicine. And at that point, after my ultrasound, I will then have to sit down with the doctor and create another plan if for whatever reason this month doesn't work. And I'm scared. I am scared that they are going to send us to a fertility specialist. I personally am not ready to commit to a fertility specialist because we are so young, but unfortunately it may be the reality of our situation. So luckily we've had so much support throughout all of this, and it makes it less scary because we have people asking about, how we are all the time, and just making sure that we're kind of staying on track with our faith and stuff too. So that's really nice. But basically, moral of the story is we are still going strong. We are not pregnant yet, unfortunately. But hopefully this next month will be better, and I promise that I'll also be better about posting these videos and updates because I get a lot of questions about them. And also, I feel like this is kind of partially an untapped community, and I want to be a part of it. I want to be a part of this community with you guys because I personally get a lot out of watching people's stories versus necessarily just reading them on Instagram. There's one YouTuber that I've been watching as of late, and her husband are going through fertility. They're actually going through like the IVF route. They ended up having, you know, unfortunately, one of their babies passed away, you know, during her pregnancy. And so that is so awful, but I'm so thankful that she's able to speak about it, because man, this journey really makes it dark real fast. I mean, it's something that my husband and I have been talking about. He's started to talk to me a little bit more about how he's feeling, and that he's like starting to get pretty sad that we're not conceiving. But luckily we do have God on our side. You have God on your side. I don't mean to push that on anybody, but I personally believe that God does have a plan, and I may not understand what it is right this second, but man, the minute that I see my baby in my arms after birth, I will understand the entire plan. And so basically that is our update. I like to ramble, so anyways, if you guys have any questions, please put them below in the comment box, or feel free to inbox me on my Instagram. Again, my Instagram is going to be linked below here somewhere. I don't know where I'm going to put it during this video, but it is Making Baby Rock on Instagram. I am very open to questions. I want to hear your stories too. Feel free to also share your story below. I want to offer you as much support as you guys have offered me. But anyways, I will see you guys next time.